Hi, I'm Louis Pierre Gignac, President and CEO of G Mining Ventures. We're building the Tocantinzinho mine in Brazil, which will be Brazil's third largest gold mine when we're complete in about a year's time.
Well, I think that's why we're talking. Only in a year's time. It will be one of the very few new mines getting into production and at significant numbers. But there's a lot left to do, isn't there?
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, with a year in front of us, there's still a lot to be done. But at this point in time, at the end of June, we've actually completed a lot of things on the project. We're about 36% complete on the overall project, which is starting to get up there in terms of a good number, a good percentage. We have over 2 million hours worked on the project to date. And we've done that safely without any LTIs. That's always a very important thing for us and to keep all our workforce and our contractors safe. So we've been very good at that so far. And we're continuing to keep our costs in budget within our budget. So we're very happy with how that is tracking as well.
Right. I guess what intrigues me is about the kind of commercial component of these things, right? Like I say, it's a big project. You're aiming for 175,000 ounces per annum, okay? And the AISC on it is well below $700. So you should be throwing off a lot of cash when you get going. But you've had to raise a lot of capital as well. Now, Franco-Nevada's involved in terms of that gold stream. So, how are you managing that? How do you view that now in a slightly lower inflationary environment than when your feasibility study came out?
Yeah, I mean, we did our full financing back last year, and we've just done our second draw on our Franco stream financing. So we pulled in another 93 million at the end of June, which will show up in our end of June financials. So we still have another draw under that stream agreement, and then we have a 75 million term loan with Franco as well. So we still have a lot of runway on our financing in front of us to pull in to finish the project.
I guess my question is, without wanting to do an entirely new feasibility study, is do you expect lower costs than when you did the study?
Right now, we're not advertising lower costs. But to your point of inflation, I think we've captured it really well. And in Brazil, we've seen the inflation rate really coming down. I think they're getting now close to 4 or 5%. So they were really quick to raise interest rates, which are actually still very high. They're still like in the 12, 13% in Brazil. So for us, that's actually been a benefit in the sense that we move our money down into our Brazilian bank account, so we can earn 13% interest until we actually need to spend that money on the project. So that's been a good way for us to hedge our FX exposure as well, as we've been incurring lots of expenditures in Brazil, like you would imagine. Essentially, 74% of what we spent so far has been in local currency.
Right. Okay. And obviously, in terms of your focus of the team and what you've got to do and what the market's expecting you to do is get into commercial production in 12 months' time. You talk about like second half of 2024. Is that what all the money is allocated to, or is there sort of a kind of team off to the side still sort of going to be looking at some other kind of blue sky opportunities? Look at in this market M&A opportunities, given the price that most companies seem to be at the moment. It looks like some bargains to be had.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, we do have an allocation for working capital. We are doing some exploration work while we're constructing, obviously. So we do have money being spent on exploration. Obviously, it's more baseline work that we're doing to generate more targets for the future. But yeah, we do have a good buffer in our sources and uses planning for the company. And to your point, yes, we are looking at M&A opportunities. We're obviously looking for a next project that will bring us, a pipeline in front of us. So we are doing a lot of due diligence on various opportunities.
Right. And how has obviously you've done this so quickly, right? This is like, was it 2.5 years? You come into this. I get the history with the family background of this is what you've done for other people, but you've done this for yourselves now. Are you one surprised at the rate at which you've been able to move? And well, let's start with that one. I mean, a lot of good things happened in the last 2 years.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that when we present to people kind of the whole history of the company, they're really taken aback by how fast we've moved uh, from just creating the company. I mean, we created the company. We were two people, three people to start. We acquired the project. We inherited 30 additional people. Now we're up to 2,000 people working on this project. So that's a significant growth. Obviously, once we're in operations, that comes down. We'll be around 650 in terms of number of people. But yeah, you make progress by having the right people and having the funds necessary to advance. And obviously, we did have all the permits that we needed to start constructing, which was one of the key things that attracted us to this project. So obviously that's the plan. It's reach commercial production, continue to go through that re-rate phase where I think now investors are kind of recognizing that everything's moving in the right direction. So I think they're happy to see that. And so we expect that re-rate to continue as we get closer and closer to commercial production come middle of next year.
Okay, I hear you saying this. It's kind of interesting. It's I guess the logistics involved is like, and that's a lot of people. It's not just the logistics of actually doing the work on feasibility studies. It's getting the people there to actually be able to get this thing into production and then continued smooth, efficient operations. So I think that's impressive. But if I may just come back to the M&A bit, because I think you would argue as CEO you're undervalued, as you should, but there are a ton of companies out there who are undervalued. And I get the thing I'm trying to understand about you and why I should invest in you is like, what type of company do you think you're going to be, or do you want to be? Because things have evolved from two and a half years ago through to now. You've flown through that, but you've now got to work out who you want to be, what you want to be, and therefore investors are going to say, well, is this the kind of company I want to be involved with? You're clearly going to be producers. Is that the final destination? We're going to stay in production. We're going to be the acquisitors. We're not going to be bought.
Yeah, we want to be on the acquisition side for sure. I want to bring in another two projects at least. My objective is to hit at least the 500,000 ounce production mark in call it 3 to 5 years. And you look at the scale of projects that we think are suitable for our company. That's in the 150 to 200,000 ounces of production. So with two additional assets, that's what I'm targeting to get us to. And if it is a larger asset, then maybe with just another TZ or slightly bigger, we can get to that 500,000 ounce mark. But for us, it's going to be about how fast we can get there, what kind of project that is suitable for us, understanding that we want to stay kind of America's focused in terms of where we're looking for projects. And you look at all our history of projects that we've done in the past, and it's been a lot in South America, where we see lots of opportunities.
Well, I guess it's advantageous if you know the countries, you know the system, you understand how to operate there for sure. Because like others are struggling. I mean, are you kind of seeing that? I mean, over the past couple of years, there's been a lot of conversation around ESG and social license, and in some countries, constitutional change, or making it very hard for external or international investment into your country. You seem to have circumvented a lot of those negative discussions and narrative. Is that because of your experience on other projects? Is that because Brazil's actually quite a good place to do business? And if so, how does that affect the where you look component?
You're right. Look, there's certain countries that I think have a negative undertone to them to try and do projects, whether it's on the permitting side or the social side. And I feel that Brazil is probably one of the better countries in South America. There's so much mining taking place. And you look at one of our major investors, La Mancha. I mean, they're an investor in Horizonte, which is also, building a nickel project in Brazil. They're looking to do other acquisitions or investments in Brazil. So they're obviously very comfortable with Brazil and see a lot of opportunity. So do we in terms of other projects in the gold space. But yeah, I think for us, the Guyana Shield is obviously a place where we've done a lot of projects in the past. So we know those countries, we know those jurisdictions, we know how to operate in those countries and who to work with in terms of contractors and consultants and advisors. So those are obviously places where we're going to be very comfortable.
Right. Okay. And then talk to me about, again, coming back to this, who do you want to be? It's how do you manage that perception of, what people perceive you to be? Because, as you get bigger, this is going to be, straight out of the gate, a big project, 175,000 ounces that with high margin. M&A is fantastic. Aiming for 500,000 ounces a year puts you in a rarefied air, indeed. When you're sort of looking around at where those sorts of companies operating in that sort of space, how they behave in terms of what they do with their cash, how profligate or efficient they are with their cash, dividends, all of those kind of signals to shareholders, institutional or otherwise. Are you gonna have to start being very conscious of those soon, because you're gonna need to help people understand who they're getting into bed with, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're not going to be looking to be making dividend payments once we're producing here. We're going to be wanting to keep that cash for M&A purposes, so that so we don't have to use our shares completely to do M&A if we don't think it's the right choice. But obviously, once we start generating cash, the objective is to keep that for growth purposes, whether it's through acquisitions and to fund future projects that we get ourselves into. So, and like we've been saying as well, we have lots of exploration upside on our project. Using equity dollars now to spend heavily in exploration is not the best use of funds right now. But obviously, when we generate our cash, we are going to want to redeploy that into exploration on our land package. So yeah, it's very much looking for growth, and whether it's organic on our property or through other assets that we'll be looking at.
Okay, so and if you could just kind of just run through those. The things that I need to judge you on are the things that you're going to deliver over the next 12 months. So in terms of the long poles in the tent for you are what should we be looking out for?
Well, I mean, look, we have our pre-production activities that are taking place as part of our project. So we have our mine fleet that's been running now. We're going to be starting to get into mining ore come September. So we're going to be building up an ore stockpile in front of this process plant when it's ready to run. So by that time, we'll have some ore stockpile, the reconciliations, and more information about the ore body that we'll be able to communicate once we get into that phase. And really, I think it's just showing continued progress in terms of that completion of the project. So, one of the big milestones that we're getting into now is building our main tailings dam of our tailings facility. That's always a critical component of a project, with the geotech aspects of potentially getting that wrong and having cost overruns. But we're actually getting the dam out of the ground now in the month of July. So that's one big milestone that's coming up. The other big thing is this transmission line that we're building. It is a very long line, 193 kilometers to connect into the grid. We're actually 52% done with that line. So, that's one big milestone that we want to get connected to the grid early in the year, get that commissioned, so we can really do our commissioning activities for the process plant and be in good shape. So obviously it's all these big milestones that we're looking to hit. We've always been communicating that the grinding circuit is a critical path for us. So on that, we have constant communication with Metso Udutech, which is our supplier for our mills. Those mills are going to be completing fabrication in August and being shipped in August. So that's a big milestone for us is hitting those points, and making sure that we finish the project on time. Um, so yeah, those are some of the continuous disclosure that we provide to our shareholders through our presentation updates that we do, and updates that we provide.
Okay, I joked about your job as CEO, something you're undervalued, but do you reckon we're waiting till just prior to the the commercial production for a re-rate, or do you think we should be leaning into this now? I mean, how do you view this as a shareholder?
Well, look, I mean, I'm a shareholder. I own, I have a lot of shares. I mean, I never tried to time the market so precisely. Anyway, that was never my objective. But when I look at it, I mean, we don't have a lot of float sometimes in our share price. There's not a lot of liquidity because a lot of our large institutional shareholders, they know the game. They know what their end game is, and it's obviously nowhere in this window. So I think getting your hand on shares sometimes can be a bit challenging. We've had a lot of institutional investors wanting to buy large blocks of shares, which is a bit of a good thing and a bad thing for us at this point. But I'd say for call it the retail investor, that wants to get in on our shareholder registry, they can do that. And I just wouldn't recommend waiting till the very end and try and time commercial production.
Well, look, yeah, I mean, it's been great following this story. Obviously, you get up with the kind of hot commissioning component, and obviously the ramp up and to hit the floor running for next year. Stay in touch. Let us know how you get on. It's been a pleasure so far following this story.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and we'll continue to provide you updates.